Hello and welcome to Birdeye Live, the show dedicated to learning how brands drive visibility, trust, and grow in a rapidly changing digital landscape. I'm your host, Justin Meredith, and today we're going to learn from industry experts about the how and the why behind modern brand discovery, from traditional search and reviews to AI-driven experiences that influence where customers choose to engage with you next. If you're tuning in live, please feel free to say hello in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. And let's jump right in. So today we are going to look back at some of the best insights and advice from SEO experts Ben Fisher, Greg Sterling, and Adam Dorfman. We recently had them join us for a webinar last week for the state of AI search in 2026. And this conversation was amazing. We had a full hour packed with their insights on where they think AI is going, how the search landscape is shifting, what elements are really involved when it comes to what AI is looking for in a business or a brand whenever they're making a recommendation on ChatGPT search, AI mode, and the AI overviews. It's like, what are you able to control and how do they look at your brand? And so we're going to jump in and we're going to take a look at a few different highlights and insights from the experts during this conversation. And we'll provide some extra thoughts and some follow-up to each of those, but it should be great. And so this first clip is from Greg Sterling, and here he explains the difference between SEO, AEO, AIO, GEO, and all these other abbreviations that seem to have hit the marketing vernacular since AI search has come into the scene. And here he actually explains what is important to focus on when it comes to this. So let's take a look.
I'll go first. The real question here, below all the terminology, is: are there any meaningful differences between what we have known as search optimization and this new thing, whatever you want to call it? What are there differences, and what are those differences? And I think the answer is, there's a Venn diagram, right? I don't think it's a one-to-one match, but there's a Venn diagram, and it's a question of the degree of overlap. One thing that is different is that AI optimization, which is the term I tend to use, is calling on marketers to do a broader range of things in SEO, diversify beyond Google, connect social posts or social links to Google Business Profile, pay attention to other, things like, sometimes Reddit and YouTube. It's opening the aperture. So if you focused exclusively on Google and Google Business Profile and sort of a narrower range of ranking signals, now it forces you to think much more broadly. And it also forces you to think, which is the way marketers have been going for the last 18 months, 24 months, to think much more about your brand trust, brand authority. Before it was like keyword stuffing in the business name and reviews and things that were very super tactical, and you really have to think about brand in a broad way and what rolls up into that, and then think about the different citations and reviews, but reviews across a broader range of sites. Yelp is an important one. Your next webinar, Yelp has become an important site again for marketers because it gets cited by AI mode and it shows up in ChatGPT. Anyway, it's really widened the way that people have to think about local marketing, which is still probably SEO, good SEO, but it's you can't just myopically focus on Google anymore, as you might once have been able to do.
Yeah. And so we hear these labels, we hear people say SEO, local organic, AI search, GEO, and they're really all just different pieces of the same thing. People are trying to find answers and make decisions, and search has always been about that. What's changing is AI is raising the bar. There are some new tactics right now, but over time, this all is settling back into what good search and search optimization has always been about. Trust, credibility, and providing clear and helpful information. As the internet fills up with low quality AI generated content, the systems have to rely more on signals that show a business is real, reliable, and they're worth recommending. The brands that have always done well understand this clearly. They didn't obsess over rankings alone, and they focus on the full experience, how customers feel, what reviews actually say. Whether the business is improving over time, AI is forcing everyone to think that in one way, shape, or another. So no, AI isn't killing SEO. It's removing shortcuts and it's rewarding business that actually do the fundamentals well, and they provide excellent experiences for their customers. And that's really kind of what it all boils down to. Now, this next clip gets a bit more practical. It's about what AI engines are actually citing when people ask local high intent questions. And when we're watching this clip, listen for where citations really come from and why the structure of your content, especially on location pages, can influence whether you show up as a source or not when it comes, so think about whenever you are searching on Chat GPT and at the bottom it has the sources button, you can click on it and then the tab on the right opens up and there's all these links. That's the citations that we're talking about here. So let's take a look at that clip and hear what the experts have to say.
So we have been running a bunch of analyses. There's a bunch of white papers on our website. Feel free to go and find those, or I'm sure Ruchika or somebody else can paste links in there, where we are doing studies showing, looking at tens of thousands of localized prompts. So these are prompts like, tell me what the best sushi restaurant is that's open on Friday in this neighborhood, sort of things. And then we're looking at what are the sources that are being utilized when these answers are being generated. What we see is that traditional citation sources, while prominent, represent less than 5% of the total citation domains that are appearing. The overwhelming amount of citations by count as well as by percentage are coming from business websites. So what I've been telling our clients is that this is a golden opportunity for now to re-emphasize your on-page SEO or whatever you want to call it right now. And structured data is so incredibly important. I haven't seen any correlation between schema or not schema. I think that's been overhyped, but adding additional content to your local websites, to your location pages, creating those types of tables that you see when answers are being generated. Like if you do a search on ChatGPT, it'll often create a table. Create that same table and put it on your page, and you're more likely to be cited and more likely to be made visible, and see your citation share and visibility percentages increase significantly. Same thing with question and answer formats and so on. So yeah, I think this is actually really exciting. For the first time, you're not out there begging for links or trying to go upstream and things like that.
Yeah. And so, the old advice of create content for humans suddenly matters a lot more. And this goes back to what we were just talking about with providing clear, helpful information. People don't talk to AI with keywords. They're not just best sushi near me. They're talking in a more conversational human tone. They ask real questions, like someone trying to decide where to go or what to do on a Saturday night. That means your content needs to answer those questions clearly. What does someone need to know before choosing you? What are the common concerns that they think about when trying to choose a business or service like yours? What details help them feel confident in their decision? AI pulls from content that explains things simply and directly. This includes text, but it also includes video, especially YouTube. We've seen that the YouTube side of things has really been increasing in the search results as well. And so if you're answering your customers' questions clearly, you're giving AI exactly what it's looking for. Now, and if your brand isn't showing up, the first step is simple. Look at who is. See what they're explaining well, then improve on it. Organize your content better, add clear Q&A sections, make it easy to understand and easy to reference. Think about, how could I write this that would be helpful for a human? And the AIs are kind of interpreting it the same way. So the big point is that this isn't really new marketing. AI is just really rewarding good marketing more directly than before. Now, this next clip is a trust check. It explains how incorrect or inconsistent information or false information can be repeated by AI systems, and how easy it is to create brand confusion and how that can arise when signals aren't consistent across the web. So take a look at this and we'll dive a little bit more deeply into it.
There was a very interesting question that somebody had earlier, and that was, I forget who it was, but it was basically about what happens about the poison pill, right? Which is where somebody has enough false information out there that it trains the AI on that information and becomes truth to somebody who does not dig deeper. And let's all be honest with ourselves. Most of us don't dig deeper. We look at the answer and we go, oh, that sounds right. That's perfect. I have seen multiple instances where you take a look at a company and you try to see in AI mode what Google actually thinks or ChatGPT thinks about that brand by typing in the name and review or reviews, which interestingly enough will give you different information. Anyway, but you start looking through and deep into those citations, you'll notice that there's a confusion that can occur between different brands. So especially if you have a more generic style brand, like not like Birdeye, right? Just like maybe somebody who has a company called Reputation Management, right? Or something like that. It's generic enough where it's going to pull in information from another brand that might have horrible reviews or bad BBB or something. Yelp is key to this, so is Glassdoor. And that information will come in, and initially what in AI mode it'll say is that watch out for this company, they have horrible reviews. No, they don't have horrible reviews. They're being conflated with another brand completely. The thing that's bad about this is that false information. What can a company do to negatively impact a competitor? And that's where the danger really comes in, is when a competitor is going behind the scenes and posting false information all over the place, maybe gets it into a place of high authority. And now all of a sudden you can't get rid of it, basically. And then it spreads. And it gets worse and worse and worse. So that's another thing to watch out for too.
Yeah. So one thing that this clip makes clear is how easily false information can spread. AI systems pull from a lot of sources. If one source is wrong, that mistake can get copied again and again until it looks trustworthy enough just because it's everywhere. That's how brand confusion can start, especially with businesses like Ben was saying that have generic names or very similar services. So this creates a real risk for brands, but it also puts pressure on AI platforms. They can't keep operating this way forever. At some point, they have to rely on more verified, trustworthy data. And until that happens, businesses need to be proactive. So check how your brand shows up in AI. Look at where the information is coming from, fix those inconsistencies, and strengthen the sources that AI is most likely to trust. So that comes from your reviews, that comes from your business information and your listings, your GBP, your Better Business Bureau, things like that. And, as Greg mentioned in the first clip, we've got a webinar coming up with Yelp. And we've seen that their presence in the search results has been increasing like crazy because the reviews that come from there are unsolicited, verified, and people trust them. And we're seeing that these AI models are relying on Yelp a lot more. And so we're going to be sitting down with Jim Chappell, the Senior Director of Business Development, in a few weeks to talk about that and figure out, and ask questions about like, how can you be successful on Yelp and what can you do to make sure that you're set up for success? And so that'll be a really interesting conversation. I'm excited for that. We're going to pick his brain, and we'll provide the link to register for that now if you in the comments at some point. So this next clip shifts to what happens when local search becomes more action-based. Greg discusses how AI-style local experiences could reshape advertising and how paid placements may become the fastest path to action. So what's interesting here is, and we're going to talk about it more, is that there is a there's a two-element side to this. Is you have the organic side and you have the paid side. And I was asking the experts this, and their insights are really interesting. So let's take a look at what Greg had to say and others. Let's see, I think it's
so. But seriously, so I think what I was thinking about was that on mobile, specifically with GBP, you can go ahead and you can ask AI or ask Gemini a question about a local business before you go, right? Like, do they carry this product? Are they, pet friendly, whatever the case may be. And you can delve into that. What would happen if any of the AI systems, but specifically Google, would only allow that for advertisers? So if you were just a regular business, a user cannot query this kind of information. But if you're an advertiser, you absolutely can have this feature. That's what I was kind of thinking along the lines of is basically being able to query about that entity even further and deeper into a little bit of chat after you're surfaced.
Well, that's what they're doing with ads. They're making ads a richer experience. I mean, think about how LSAs are now sort of in many ways superior to the local pack because they're at the top of the page. They look like the local pack, and they have a lot of the GBP information if you click through, or it's indistinguishable. And they were testing removing the call feature, except in ads. And so Google is privileging ads in many, many ways, and they're going to continue to do that.
Yeah. And so as AI becomes more interactive, these paid placements are likely to become, fast ways to get started and to help control the way your brand is being seen online by these LLMs. Just recently we saw OpenAI is it planning to introduce ads on their free and lower paid tiers. If you look in the Google results with a local search, you'll see that it starts with a lot of ads. But I think one thing that is important to consider is it is a two sided coin. You should have the balance of your organic strength there tied with the paid side. I don't think you can just completely rely on one side or the other. I think being able to attack it from both sides, from the paid and organic, is the best strategy. And that just means these decisions shift from a very, not so much of a tactical thing where you can just throw a bunch of money into it, but you have to really think strategically and think about your data quality and the accuracy of that and where these ads are pointing to and the intent of the searches that you're trying to, show up for. It's starting to matter a lot more. Now, our fifth and final clip, we're looking at some of the predictions, and we're going to, hear from Ben and Greg on what they think the next 12 months will entail when it comes to search, what the landscape will look like when it comes to AI's role in search and discovery for brands. And they had some really interesting insights on this. Let's take a look at what they had to say. As we go forward in 2026, or if we look at where we're going to be in 12 months from now, what do you think the state of search will look like? What will the experience be? What are your predictions for 2026? Ben, if you want to kick us off.
Sure. I'm still sticking by this one prediction, and that is that I think that things are going to accelerate enough with Google to where AI mode, I'm going to say with an 80% confidence that AI mode will become the default search. I think you'll still be able to switch back to regular search, but I think AI mode is going to become much more prominent. I also think that this year is also going to be a time where we see, again, wearables becoming more and more common, I guess you could say, especially with the advent of glasses that are coming out that are pretty sweet, pretty slick. So again, just accelerating that zero-click search.
Yeah,
I would say that there will continue to be volatility in the search world. This year, I don't agree that AI mode as it exists is going to be the new default search interface. I think the interface will continue to evolve, and AI mode will continue to get better, but I think we're going to see some hybrid interface, more AI now, moving toward more AI than what we've seen. I think consumer behavior will continue to evolve. I agree, Emily. Google is very inefficient, and I think a lot of consumers will lean on AI for discovery and to define a competitive set, and then go to Google. Our consumer research shows people will often go to AI first. That defines the competitors that people are looking at. Then they go to Google to get last mile information, contact details, directions, and so on and so forth. And I think, Google is much stronger for local, but 77% of consumers in a January survey that I just did think that local is improving in AI results. Now that includes Gemini and AI mode. Anyway, more of the same for 2025, I think, and it's a critical year for ChatGPT because Google is coming on strong.
Yeah. And I like the way he ended that with Google is coming on strong, because right after we had this discussion just a week ago, earlier this week, Google announced that Gemini was now their default model for their AI overviews in AI mode, as well as they are making it easier to click into AI mode from the AI overviews. And so it just feels like there's all these little pushes and these moves that Google's making to start pushing people to this more AI-centric search. And so I think Ben and Greg's, predictions for this further movement in that direction is spot on. And I like what Greg was saying about how this is going to be a hybrid approach. I think it really depends on the search journey. I feel like the search journey is definitely becoming more nuanced, and people are using AI in conjunction with traditional search to find what they're looking for. And that evolution is just going to continue to change and evolve over the course of this year, especially if we look at how 2025, it felt like there was a lot more experimentation with some of these features, especially on search. And I feel 2026, we're going to see a little bit more implementation of what they got from those experiments. And we're already starting to see that over just the last few weeks. So heading into 2026, visibility really isn't just in a single surface anymore. You can't just look at the 10 blue links on Google. Your brand is discovered through AI, through, it's judged through reviews. They're looking, it's not just your customers looking at your business profiles. It's also AI. It's taking brand signals from across the web. And so that kind of volatility isn't a temporary thing. I think it's only going to grow and evolve. And kind of to tie it back to what we were talking about in the very first clip is this stuff is converging. SEO is becoming more of a part of digital marketing as a whole. And so the things that you see in AI search doesn't necessarily mean, oh, we could just write a blog and throw a few keywords. It means we need to have a new strategy around how we're messaging around this topic or this product or service that we're doing. And it's a much more concentrated effort or, collective effort in order to really control your narrative online. And so if there's one theme that has kept coming up today, it's that visibility doesn't just end at search anymore. AI helps people narrow their options, search and reviews help them validate. But what happens after that first moment of interest is where a lot of brands still struggle. And that's actually why we've been building something new here at Birdeye, marketing automation. It's designed to use the same signals that we talked about, like your reviews, your engagement signals, customer behavior, and what they're looking at on your website and how they're engaging, to automatically follow up with the right message at the right time. No complex workflows. I know if you're in marketing and you deal with email marketing, there's a lot of complicated workflows where you have to create a bunch of filters and a lot of if-then statements and exclusion lists, and it can get real messy really fast. And especially if you have a lot of different locations, maybe, over 100, 500, 1,000 locations, trying to create automated campaigns that are personalized to each local level or personalized to the local level is extremely difficult. You spend more time working on the workflow than you do working on the content to help make that stuff relevant. What's great about with marketing automation is that it's natural language. You just describe the type of campaign and the type of segment that you're wanting to target, and the agents will create that workflow for you. So it takes a lot of the manual work out of it. No more manual list building, just smarter, more consistent outreach across every location that's personalized to each of those locations. And we mentioned earlier that we do have an upcoming webinar with Jim Chappell from Yelp. And to kind of give you a quick preview of this is, as AI-driven search expands and traditional rankings become less predictable, Yelp is becoming an increasingly influence over visibility. It's often appearing, if you do a local search on Google, you'll see the sponsored results, you'll see the map pack, and then the first result is usually top 10 X businesses in your area. And it's a Yelp link. And so for many businesses, this creates uncertainty, like strategies that work well elsewhere don't always apply. And many are looking for clear guidance on how Yelp's data, how their reviews, their signals contribute to discoverability. And so in this webinar, I'm going to sit down with Jim Chappell, and he's going to break down how Yelp fits into today's search landscape and why the platform works the way it does, the challenges businesses have and how they can overcome them, and how you can really succeed on Yelp and ultimately in search. And we're going to talk about just the sheer reach of the Yelp ecosystem. I think it'll be surprising to people how much larger the Yelp ecosystem is. So that's all the time that we have today. Thank you guys so much for joining us here at Birdeye Live. We'll have more episodes coming up here in the coming weeks. We'll preview we'll talk more about marketing automation. We'll preview the Yelp webinar, and we'll get back to you guys soon with some more awesome stuff. But in the meantime, I highly recommend you guys follow us on LinkedIn, and also please subscribe to us on YouTube. We are working on posting a lot more content to our YouTube, a lot more helpful videos to help you really expand and optimize your digital marketing across the board. And so we're coming out with some really cool content. And so I highly recommend you guys subscribe to that. But until next time, we'll see you. Thank you guys, and we'll talk to you later.
You're curious about using AI, but you don't want AI that puts your brand at risk. Because if the communication is inconsistent and non-compliant, you risk losing customers' trust. So, how do you authentically expand your hyperlocal business? Meet brand and industry AI from Birdeye. Your own custom AI models built to reflect your brand voice, understand your industry, and adapt to every location. Brand AI captures your unique voice. Industry AI brings the correct context. Together, they train AI agents that act on your behalf, consistently, intelligently, and always on brand. These AI agents don't just personalize content, they deliver outcomes that matter to your business. AI agents trained on brand and industry AI know the regulations that matter and respect them by design. Leading businesses across all industries are adopting AI built for them. And for teams managing hundreds of locations, custom LLMs tuned to the brand and industry redefine scale and consistency. This is not just automation. It's AI that speaks your brand and understands your industry. Your brand, your industry, your market. AI that acts for you on your terms. This is Brand and Industry AI.